name's Jay Henderson, and hey man, it's good to see you. What a treat. And Pastor Steve invited me to be here, and it's just an honor. You guys are part of something so special. A few years ago when I got to kind of be around this and see everything you guys get to be a part of, it just means so much. You guys made the energy and effort to be at this conference. Now this is a switch. Last time I was here, it was like 100 degrees outside, so it was summertime. So I think this is new, right? Is this the first time trying to do it in the spring?
Yeah, they should have moved it to the second or third week of March.
But then it's March Madness. So
that might have had something to do with it.
that's it. I think there were some things about Arkansas basketball, March Madness. Well, hey, in our time together, we're going to talk about the best practices for pastors to have a financial future that they've got some options. So super quick, the best tools that I can give you guys so that you guys are going to have a work optional life in the future. I'm going to share for about 30 to 40 minutes, and then I'd love to just have some question and answer time with you guys. On your little handout right there, that's for some of the type A'ers that you get to see kind of where we're going. I also have I know there's some audio learners and some visual learners, so we've got a little bit of everything. But on the bottom of your sheet is my cell phone, and if there's a question that you're having that you may not feel comfortable raising a hand, that's one way you can share it. And also, I'm here for the next 2 days, so I'm speaking tomorrow as well. So I will be around and be able to help answer your questions. Short background about me. Guess what? 2 questions I've been asked most of my adult life. Good. That's always one of them. What's the other one?
How tall are you?
How tall am I? Great. We're on it. You're tracking. You're with me. So, yes, I'm 6'11", and yes, I did play basketball. I did have, 3 years ago, I had a little third grader at my kid's school walk up, and he grabbed my pant legs, and he said, "Sir, are those your real legs?" If you were wondering, yes, these are my real legs. And if you want to have a very awkward conversation with somebody tall, ask him that question. So when I was growing up, I knew something was a little bit different about me. 5th grade baseball. I knew baseball was not my future because the only way I got on base was by getting hit by the pitch. But I was 6 foot in the 7th grade. I was 6'6" in the 8th grade. I was 6'9" as a freshman. I was 6'11". I was one of the top players in '95 to play here in Fayetteville, Arkansas. The Go Purple Bulldogs. CLC was my home church. So I've known Pastor Steve since I was about junior year of high school. Had a huge impact on my life of that big transition of deciding college and kind of where God was leading me. So those few formative years with Pastor Steve being here was just so transformational. After high school basketball, I went to Oral Roberts, got to play for Bill Self in the 90s. Had an incredible experience there. Got to win some championships, play on some great teams, play on TV a few times. Well, Coach Self has gone on to have a really great career. He's coaching at Kansas. He's having a terrible year this year, but he has won 2 championships, and he's actually in the Basketball Hall of Fame. Last summer, I got to take my kids to Springfield, Massachusetts, to see the Basketball Hall of Fame. And there we saw this area that said Hall of Fame coaches. And we're like, we got to go see if Coach Self's in there. I kid you not, Coach Self had his own little video board and all of his history. It was so cool sharing with my boys. Well, guess what they had? They had a picture of my team right there. So you guys know what that means? I'm in the Basketball Hall of Fame. I mean, until they change this video or until they change this out. But my boys were so excited. They couldn't wait to tell everyone about their dad or what he's in the Basketball Hall of Fame, kind of, sort of. But that's basketball changed my life. It actually took me around the globe. I played for 5 years over in Europe and China. This is a game in Portugal. Just an incredible experience of what basketball did for me. At age 27, I was playing an NBA Summer League in Los Angeles. Running down the court, my L5 disc goes out. Felt like a lightning bolt went right through my body, fell on the ground. I couldn't move. My career was over just like that. And I was like, all right, Lord, what's next? What's this new chapter? So I felt like before I started my wealth management business, I felt like God called me into ministry. So after Europe, I became a youth pastor, became a young adults pastor, and then I was a lead pastor at Life Church. I started Life Church Owasso and Life Church Jinx. During that time, I got my master's degree at Fuller Theological Seminary. I met my wife. We've got 2 great kids. They're 8th grade and 5th grade. My wife is an incredible singer, and her upbringing was singing the national anthem at big events. So when we were dating, I noticed at her dad's house, there was a picture of Lindsay singing at a big event. And I looked a little closer. She's singing at an ORU basketball game. She's singing at the Texas ORU basketball game, national television. They were ranked 12th in the country. There I am, 6 feet away from Lindsay with my hand over my heart. She's singing the national anthem. I'm a sophomore in college, and she's in the 7th grade. Which sounds a little illegal in a few states. We're in Arkansas, but that kind of stuff happened way back then. So, but can everyone say, "Aw"? Incredible journey doing life with my best friend. When I was pastoring, I counseled hundreds of couples. Life Church really attracts young families, early marrieds. Guess what topic seemed to be the majority of the time I'm working with couples?
Finance.
Money. It was hidden debt, hidden spending habits. It was comparison, consumption. I saw it all. And something stirred in me that one day, I was going to help people in this one specific area. I taught the Dave Ramsey courses, read all the books, even found out that, this is stats long ago, but couples fought over money 52 times a year. And you can do the math on that. That's average. That means there's more and there's less. So I really enjoyed making a difference in people's lives in this one area. And then one day happened. Everyone say one day. One day we had just launched the largest campus in Life Church history. We had 3,000 people nearly on our first Sunday. 3 services. It was unbelievable. Right before that, I started a campus in Owasso. I was working 60, 70 hours a week. We had 9 services on the weekend. It was an incredible chapter of life. Incredible life change, being able to be a part of that. When I launched Life Church Jinx, it was just this incredible speeding train. And trying to use a model of church where I want to be able to kind of help the local community, kind of Life Church has a model, but wanting to kind of speak the language of our local community, which revolved around sports. So we're really involved in the sports area. On a Monday morning, I'll never forget it, my district area pastor comes in and he says, "Jay, today's going to be your last day being a pastor. And we just don't think you're a fit for our model. You think too much on your own. You don't just run the offense like we want it to. You kind of personalize it and customize it. We just want you to do what we want you to do. And we believe the model works." And being told you're not a fit, it was the hardest day of my life. I'm 48 years old, having a lot of success, growing a church. We had just moved, sold our house. We did a $50,000 kitchen remodel. If you've ever done one of those, it's a nightmare. We cashed out our savings. We did put everything in this house. Same time, we just had a baby, Bo. And new baby, new house, no savings, no job. It's the darkest days of my life. I've never said so many bad words ever in my life. It took me about 5 weeks to really kind of come out of that, where it's just like, Lord, what are we going to do? I've never been so scared financially. I've never understood daily bread. We got a severance from Life Church, which was really nice of them. It was $16,000. They asked if we'd like to tithe to Life Church on that. I said, no thanks. I will find somewhere else to tithe on that.
I don't blame you.
And we wrote the hardest check I've ever written. I tithed off my severance check. I had no idea where my next paycheck was coming from. After 5 weeks, I felt like the Lord said, hey, remember all that counseling you did? I want you to do that. And so I just went headfirst into understanding how to be a financial advisor, how to start a wealth management practice, looked at scripture. I looked at it every way possible, and I felt like, okay, Lord, you've called me to be a pastor. I'm just going to pastor people financially. And let me tell you, I went from making $100,000 my first year, and God did this. Made $25,000 my first year in business. You guys, it was so scary. My first year of business, I cashed out all my 401ks. I got a HELOC loan, which means I pulled the equity out of my house. I was standing in line. This is November 13th, my first year in business. This is 8 months into opening my business. And I'm standing in line at Walmart with the grocery cart for about $400 of groceries. And you see what this number is? It's $315. These are zeros. I had to call my father-in-law and say, Paul, I'm at Walmart. I don't think I can pay for this. He goes, I had a credit card. He goes, put on the credit card. I'll take care of it. And I took a screenshot while I was standing in line at Walmart. And I felt like the Lord said, this is either going to be a great story one day that you can share, or this is going to be a very painful reminder. And every time I get an opportunity to share, I share this. I know what it's like to be stressed financially. I know what it's like to be scared. I know what it's like to be negative. I know what it's like to have negative net worth. I know what daily bread is. And I felt like the Lord through this said, hey, I want to teach you 2 lessons. Number 1, I'm your source. When you start a business, you don't get paid every 2 weeks. I went 2 months without a paycheck. There were so many scary moments. The second thing I felt like the Lord wanted to teach me was, it was always my church. It was never yours. It wasn't my staff, my church, my building, my community. It was always His. And I felt like the Lord allowed me to start a business and say, Lord, this is yours. You're the owner. I'm just the manager. Stewardship. Stewardship means somebody else owns it. You just kind of manage it. And somehow I got that twisted. And I went through a really painful time to learn that lesson. So what I'm going to share with you today is what God has done and what I've been teaching for 12 years about financial stewardship. And specifically, how pastors need to utilize this. So let's look at the biggest things that we are facing. Quick backstory, that was 12 years ago. Since then, we've got 3 offices now. We've got a bunch of advisors. We work with people all across the country. Thanks. COVID was the best thing that ever happened to us because we work on Zoom and DocuSign now. So we work with over 1,000 families, hundreds of millions of dollars people have entrusted with us. Work with a lot of churches, a lot of pastors. We just plan, protect, and grow wealth. And we use some really unique strategies to do that. So that's the backstory of Utica Capital and how I'm here today. So let's jump into why this matters and what are the unique things that are facing you as a pastor and your staff. So here we go for the type A'ers. First thing that we're seeing that has never happened in the financial world before is we're living longer than we ever have in history. So there's a 50% chance, if you make it to 65, there's a 50% chance you're going to make it to 95, is what research shows us. Average life expectancy right now is 87 years old, and this is post-COVID. So that's great news. I've got great news for half of you in this room, and not so great news for the other half. But what that means, has anyone known anyone that made it past 95? Okay, my Grammy was 99. And those things are going to be common. Right now here in America, 10% of our population is over the age 100. 10%. Wow. This is post-COVID. It's unbelievable how longevity is happening. A lot of it is medical advancements, medicine. People are choosing to eat a little bit better. All those things combined is that we're having a very long life. That can be a good thing or not so good thing. Good thing if you're saving, not so good thing if you're not. So living longer, this has never happened in your financial world. It's compounded by the second thing. We're actually saving the least than we ever have in history. Right now, 82% of U.S. workers are living paycheck to paycheck. Our research shows us that pastors and ministry workers are around 90% living paycheck to paycheck. 33% of U.S. workers do not save $1 for their future. That means they go to work, they have a retirement plan, but because they're living paycheck to paycheck, they can't put $1 towards their future. Well, guess what we found? With pastors, it's around 50%. 50% of pastors have access to a retirement plan, but they don't put $1 towards their future. Here's the one that freaks me out, is that if you take all the retirement accounts, IRAs, 401ks, every retirement account out there, and average them, it would be around $25,000. We're living longer and saving the least than we ever have in history. It kind of feels like we're building Noah's Ark here, like, hey, we need to build this thing. It's going to take a little while, but it's going to save your life. It's going to help people around you. And so many people are behind in that, living longer and saving the least. So on top of that, these are actually the good days financially of where our global economy is at. These are the good days, and we're still not able to break the cycle of paycheck to paycheck, which is the basics. If you're wanting to do well financially, we have to break that cycle. Here's where today started. The reason why I'm here today is because something that happened to a pastor. Pastor started a church in California 30 years ago. Very gifted communicator, leader. His church really started to flourish. His staff started to grow. They started to build buildings. Hundreds of people are coming to know Christ through this ministry. A lot of sacrifices going on. Pastor's putting a lot of the benefits of the church ahead of himself, benefits of the staff ahead of himself. And you can see what's happening here. You can see what's happening. When it comes time for him to decide, hey, I really think I'm ready to pass the baton, he couldn't. He couldn't afford retirement because of the years of sacrifice, because of everything that he invested in other people, all along the way, neglecting his own financial future. He couldn't let go of the baton. I'm a huge Olympics fan. We have a big Olympics party. My wife and I, we absolutely love the Olympics. And the 4x4 to me is one of the most incredible relay races, where you got four people, and the 4x400 I think is amazing, where each person runs one lap. And these athletes train hours upon years about the transition of passing the baton as quickly as possible. That's where the race is won or lost. Sometimes that baton can be dropped, and you lose a second, you get behind. Sometimes there's actually this space that you only have a certain few meters to where you can actually hand it off. If you go outside, you get disqualified. It's fascinating that the world record right now is 2 minutes and 54 seconds. It was set in 1993. The illustration I'm seeing is what happens if we hold on too long, and how do we afford to pass the baton on? So this is going to kind of be our illustrated message here, is passing the baton. And that's where I'm going to sit for the next few minutes. I clearly believe that God loves your church more than you do. Yeah. I know it's a part of your family. It's your probably third child. What I experience is God is the owner. It is his church. You are just the steward of it. You've been entrusted to be a steward of it. One of the best things that you can do, one of the most spiritual things you can do, is to make sure your financial house is in order. Make sure your financial future is set. So that one day, when that day comes and you feel like, hey, I think it's time that I need to start passing the baton, my first recommendation would be you need about 5 years. Make sure you give yourself 5 years to identify, hey, here's somebody I think can be the next leader. It takes a little bit of time. Because the danger is you get to that point and you're going to be the one that has to hold on to the baton. And let me tell you, when those racers run around the track, they lose. Nobody wins. Because here's why. If they have to pay you your salary while they're hiring the new person, guess what happens? There's no funds to go to ministry. There's no funds to go to growth, to add staff, because they're having to pay you a significant salary, probably the rest of your life. And the ministry wants to move on, but they can't. And you've become an anchor. And that's what happened to my friend in California. The church was ready to keep moving forward, and they couldn't. He was the anchor that kept them behind. And sadly, it's still going on today. They're still having to pay him. And everything is just kind of in this holding pattern, just waiting for him to be able to let go. And he's probably not going to ever. Not until he dies.
Wow.
And that's sad. Yeah. It makes me so sad for his church. It makes me so sad that it's happening in other churches. It makes me sad that it might be happening in your church. Being able to pass the baton is one of the most important things you can do as a pastor, of being able to afford it. So with Pastor Steve, working with him for about 9 years now, he came up with this idea. So since this is being recorded, I'm giving him full credit. Tomorrow, I may take credit for this illustration. But he thought, what if we kind of look at it like I'm on a 6-lane highway, and I'm all the way on the inside, ministry's rocking, but I know there's going to be an exit ramp one day. And what we looked at is kind of every 6 months to a year, hey, what lane are we in? Have we moved over one lane? Have we moved over another lane? Have we moved over another lane? And then I get a phone call a few years ago. And he's like, Jay, I think the turn signal's on. I go, great. We've been working for this for a long time. We've been working with the board. We have our plan. We've got the next leader already identified. And the succession plan started coming together. It was a thing of beauty. If you need any insights, talk to Pastor Steve and Pastor Grant about what was it that they did? How long did it take? Because that baton handoff was flawless. It was a thing of beauty, praise God. But what did we have to do? Well, what we had to do was make sure, number one, Pastor Steve felt comfortable. Oh, these are the USA historically. There was a moment where they dropped the baton and lost the gold medal. That was a tough one. This is the one, I don't know why this guy's smiling, because this guy's holding on to the baton. This is the best picture I could find of somebody being dragged around the track. But here's the first thing that Pastor Steve did. He made sure he wasn't avoiding the conversation. And why do we avoid the conversation? Number one, it's because it personally benefits you. How is it to have the financial conversation when it's like, hey, I really need help, church. I need help, board. We get paralyzed. What if they say no? It's embarrassed. It's self-serving. The number one thing I want to recommend to you is that you've worked hard. You've stewarded the church well. It's okay to have this conversation. If you need help, Pastor Steve and the leaders of WE have said yes to meeting with you and your board. If you ever needed for somebody to stand in and have this conversation, like we've already explained, one of the most important spiritual things you can do for the life and future of your church is to be able to afford to pass the baton. So you have some backup if you need help to have this conversation. Who looks after the pastor's retirement? There's two people. It's you and the church board. You and the church board. One of the things I've learned about people avoiding this conversation is, okay, it's awkward to talk about money. Let's get rid of that right now. The Bible talks about prayer 500 times. One book talks about prayer 500 times. That's a big deal. The Bible talks about money 2,300 times. Jesus spoke more about money than heaven and hell combined. It seemed like he was very comfortable talking about money. So I feel like we need to walk in that same attitude. It's like, this is incredibly important for the future of the church and walking in that confidence of having that conversation. So let's get into specifics of solutions of how do we afford to pass the baton. So the first solution is the church needs to set up a retirement plan. This benefits your team and it can benefit you. Every dollar that goes into the group retirement plan helps lower your taxes. That's number one. Number two, there's a match. So The reason why the match is very important, you put your money in, the match puts money in, and then the growth of the investments. That's how wealth is created, and it supercharges it when you do it through a group plan. There's no other way you can invest for your future that somebody else puts money in on top of yours. That's why the group plan is always the best place to start. In a 403B and 401k, you can put $23,500. If you're over the magic age of 50, you can put $7,500 in there. That is a lot of money each year. Simple IRA. This is what I recommend to so many churches, and here's why. There's no cost to open up a simple IRA. There's no reporting, there's no IRS stuff. It is so simple. Each pay period, your team can put money in up to $16,500 a year. The magic age, you can put $3,500. That is a huge chunk of money. This has to come with a 3% match. 403B and 401ks can have up to a 4% match. The reason why that's important is the church can use it as a business expense. It basically doesn't cost the church anything to provide a match for your team. SEP IRA, if you're a solo pastor, you don't have any staff, this is the best bucket that's available to you. A solo pastor can put up to $70,000 into a SEP IRA. These are the most important buckets. I would say these are the easiest buckets for any church to be able to establish. It helps you and your staff. Here's one thing I have found working with churches. If a senior pastor is struggling with his financial future, who else is struggling? The rest of the staff is probably struggling too. So being able to set them up for their financial future, there's just so many benefits to a church retirement plan. The next solution, so that's the easiest. Let's take it one step further. When I was a pastor, everyone I knew opted out of Social Security. It was a very trendy thing to do. Every pastor I knew told me, Jay, you need to opt out of Social Security. I'm like, I don't want to pay extra each paycheck. That's a great idea. When I was a youth pastor, I was literally paid with pizza and t-shirts. I was married, making $28,000 and pizza and t-shirt. My wife was really excited about that. So, show of hands, have anyone in this room opted out of Social Security? Okay, handful of you. Okay, you have an opportunity of a lifetime. And here's why. That money that you could be putting into Social Security, if you put it into a Roth IRA, you can put up to $7,000 a year, $1,000 more for the magic age. That grows and grows and grows, and then when you pull it out, it's tax-free. It is the most incredible, magical financial bucket you could ever put money into. There's actually an income level where the IRS knows if you make too much money, you don't even get to put money in there. They know it's so good. Because imagine having 30 years of growth and then it comes out tax-free. My encouragement, if you're opted out of Social Security, most pastors will spend it, but if you can be disciplined and put that same money that was going into Social Security, it's going to change your life. The last few days, Elon Musk got into a lot of hot water. He said that Social Security is the greatest Ponzi scheme in U.S. history. If you look at the math, I can see where he's coming from. If you put in your whole life, Social Security, there's a maximum monthly benefit. Let's say you get $10,000 a year. If you would have invested that same amount of money into just SPY, which is just an index fund that follows the S&P 500, it's the most basic form of investing. The difference is $32,000 a month if you had invested your own money. So those of you that have opted out of Social Security, make sure you're using this strategy. Anyone, if you don't have any, even if you have a group retirement plan, you can still put money into a Roth IRA. So that's my recommendation for any pastor. If you can afford it, max this out. It will change your future. The last solution, and this is the solution I actually used with Pastor Steve. This one's complicated. And it needs 10 years to be able to cook. So if you don't have 10 years, the strategy is not for you. The second thing is you have to be able to pass a medical exam, a physical. So this is a deal with a life insurance company. Every month, the church puts in a premium. Some of it goes to life insurance, which is one great benefit. The second benefit is every month, some of the money goes into an investment fund. That investment fund grows and grows and grows over the years. And guess what? When it comes time to pull the money out, it comes out tax-free, just like a Roth IRA. This is what high net worth people use. When you make over $200,000 and the IRS says, hey, no Roth IRA for you, this is the strategy we use for those situations. You can still get a tax-free financial future. It comes in a wrapper like this, where it's in a index universal life policy. You get two benefits, the life insurance and the tax-free money, but it has to be a perfect situation of you've got more than 10 years and you've got pretty good health. If there's any cancer in your medical history, if there's any heart stuff in your medical history, this is not going to work. But for some instances, this is a great strategy. And here's why. Life insurance companies don't want to lose money. They look at risk. So if somebody is young and they use this strategy, it costs about what a pizza would cost per month. If you wait till older, it costs about what a house costs per month or what a house payment would cost. It's really expensive later in life. So if you have good health early in life, this can be a great strategy. Next, I want to share with you. So if you have your little piece of paper, you've got some of our best things right here in front of you. Let me give you some best practices. One thing I encourage churches to do is put the retirement plan of the pastor as a line item in the budget. It is in the bylaws. If things don't go well financially, we don't cut the pastor's retirement funding. We just talked about how it's the most important thing to the future of the church, that the pastor is not the anchor of the church. I have seen churches cut it like, oh, hey, we just can't afford it. Well, we just destroyed what we've been building. So that's where we make it a focus for the board that it's in the budget. Do the little things right. My ORU coaches taught us this. It was on everything, plastered everywhere. It drove me sick. But after I graduated, I realized being successful in any area of your life, it's because you were successful in doing the little things right. And my encouragement is do the little financial things right. The little things actually become the big things. Do the little things right. A pastor named Mike Murdoch, when I was at ORU, spoke one time, and he said this. He said, the secret to life is in your daily routine. This habit-forming quote applies to your finances as well. The secret is being in a habit of doing the right things with your money. So this is not on your piece of paper. This is an added bonus. I use a strategy called the 10-10-10 principle. And this is how I make a difference in my daily financial life. Every time I get paid, I give 10. I save 10. I invest 10. When somebody has over 6 months saved up of living expenses, you stop saving. After that, you give 10, you invest 20. Somebody that's investing 20% of their income, it acts like a snowball. It starts off really small, but then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. It's called compound interest. Warren Buffett is famous for understanding the snowball mentality. Warren Buffett made his first trade at age 11. At age 65, he had $4 billion. $4 billion. Absolutely amazing. How did you go from your first stock at 11 to $4 billion? It took him over 54 years to do that. Warren Buffett is 95. That snowball is now 120 billion. Wow. It's gone from 4 to 120 in 30 years. That's the power of compound interest, of every paycheck doing the little things right, the little things right, the little things right. That's how wealth is built. That's how your financial future is put together. I came across this quote about 5 years ago, and it really messed with me. It says, don't worry about the harvest, just worry about the planting. So many people worry about, oh, am I going to have enough money? Am I going to be able to retire? Well, show me what you're planting in. What are you doing with what you have right now? Where is that going? Being able to understand it's not an income problem. for most people that I sit down and look at their budgets, it's a spending problem. There's money leaking out of their financial cup, and the financial world says, hey, just pour more in. Just keep pouring more money in. But you've got these cracks. It just comes out each month. What if you fix the cracks and put more money in? That's what these quotes are for, is to just encourage you to do the little things right, that look at the daily routines, use that 10-10-10 principle, and it makes an incredible difference. Last story, and then I want to hear from you guys before we go to lunch. So this is Louis. When I played in Beijing, I don't speak Chinese, and if you've ever been to Beijing, 25% of the globe is Chinese. It's absolutely fascinating walking around this country. And here I am playing basketball. The only word I spoke that everyone understood was McDonald's. If I just say McDonald's, everyone would like point where McDonald's was. So Louis was assigned to be my tour guide. He worked for the team. He went everywhere I did. I said, Louis, I want to go to the Great Wall one day. Boom, he takes me to the Great Wall. Incredible, incredible experience. My first few days in Beijing, I'm walking to practice with Louis. And if you've ever seen that part of the world, in an intersection, there's cars, there's bicycles, there's people, there's animals, there's vendors all around you. And if you've ever been to China, they have a different personal space than we do. So when you're a 7-foot white guy walking down the street and everyone thinks you're an NBA superstar, it was very uncomfortable my first 48 hours landing in Beijing. Louis walks me to this intersection. I've never seen anything like it. So many people, cars, animals, vendors, people. The light turns white to cross the street, and I kid you not, I completely froze. I could not move. It was so overwhelming. I'll never forget, Louis turns around, he grabs my arm, and he tells me this, a phrase that I've been sharing for all these years. Stand still, get killed. I kid you not, that phrase for the last 30 years has resonated in every area of my life. Don't be afraid about going slow. It's the standing still that will get you killed. Wow. The real pain comes when you don't do anything. Yeah. Don't worry about going slow as long as you're taking a step. Yeah. It's when you're like, hey, we'll figure that out in 10, 20 years. Guess what? It won't. Being able to take the steps now so that things are put in place. The planting has happened so that there will be a harvest one day. The planting happens so that there is options one day. That there is an ability to pass on the baton and be able to let go. That it's not dropped. That you're not being dragged around the track. Guys, you've got to be able to take the right steps and do the right things to be able to have that. So I want to close with this. Which one will you be? Are you going to be one that drops? Are you going to be the one that hangs on? Are you going to be able to just pass it on and help your team, help your church continue to thrive, continue to grow, continue to reach more people of what the church and why you got into ministry? Which one are you going to be? What is your handoff going to look like? Don't be the anchor. Don't be the one that has to work and get paid till you die. Be able to take those action steps today. What do you need to do? What does your church need to do for you? What does your staff need to do? Talk with somebody. Talk with your board. Talk with your financial advisor. If you don't have one, find one. If you don't find what you're looking for, my phone number, email is on the bottom of that page. We work with pastors all across the country on Zoom. Take that step. What is that step that you need to take today? Lastly, 12 years ago was the darkest day of my life. And today is such an honor and a privilege to share and invest in you. Those really dark nights of waking up in the middle of the night and just freaking out, like, what are we going to do? How are we going to afford it? We've got kids. Are we going to, lose everything? I felt like my world was crumbling. And I couldn't even dream one day of being able to stand in front of pastors and share what I have had to learn and be a resource for you. It truly is just an honor to share my journey with you and to be a resource for you. So thank you so much.
Good, man.
Thank you. So now the fun part. What can I answer for you guys? Was this helpful? Okay, good. I know sometimes when you give everyone the answers before, I tried to make it tough. You had to fill some stuff in. But give me some feedback.
Why is it Utica?
Great question. So in Tulsa, Utica Square is the fancy part of Tulsa. It's where the Saks Fifth Avenue is. So our office has been there for 34 years. So,
Simple IRA, is that 70,000 a year?
no, simple IRA is 17,000, and then you've got, if you're over 50, you've got more you can put in. You can put 3,000 more in. So 16,500 plus 3,500. Yeah, the SEP is 70,000 per year. So if you're a solo pastor, talk with your CPA. Your CPA will tell you how much of the 70,000 you can put in. It's called adjusted gross income. If your adjusted gross income, it fits within a range, you can max it out. But if your income is at a significant level, they kind of ratchet that down. Yes.
Is it tax deferred or tax?
Correct. You'll have to pay taxes when you pull it out. So every dollar you put in lowers your taxes. That's why your CPA will tell you, hey, based on your AGI, here's how much you can put in this year. And it might fluctuate every year. But every dollar helps lower your taxes while it cooks for your future. It's a great question. Simple IRA is by far the most used team retirement plan we use. Great question. What else?
How fast does that grow?
Depends on what you invest in. So we can invest on the whole spectrum. You want to invest in really growthy, risky stuff, we can do that. If you want more conservative stuff, we can do that. Most people invest in what's called a target date fund. They're very popular in retirement plans, and here's why. Research shows that when someone signs up for their group retirement plan, you know how many times they look at it the rest of their life? 0. So day one, when they sign up for the retirement plan, research shows they will never, ever look at it again. So if somebody stays with your team for 30 years, how somebody's invested 30 years ago should not be how they invest today. Target date funds were invented. It means when they're 30 years ago, it's very aggressive. And every year, it clicks a little bit safer, a little more conservative. So it matches up with your age, where somebody that's 35, they probably need to invest in more kind of growth, more aggressive things. Somebody that's 65 probably needs to invest in a little more conservative things. And the target date fund automatically does it for you. So that's a great question. We try to average, the market does 9.5% annually. So we want to be close to that. Whatever we put you in, we would hope it's close to that.
All right, so I worked 15 years for Coca-Cola. So I have money in a 401k, and it's in the S&P 500.
Great.
So your recommendation, should I leave that? Should I look at doing something else with it?
Great question. A lot of people leave their old 401k there. Have you ever heard of a business being bought? Have you ever heard of a company changing 401k plans?
Oh, yeah.
Let me tell you, you let something sit for 10, 15 years and you try to go back like, I can't log into my 401k. Yeah, that was 3 401ks ago. They've already changed it. My recommendation is in 90 days to 6 months, you need to move that into your own IRA. IRA just stands for Individual Retirement Account. It means wherever you work, you can take that group plan, that company plan, and pour it into your IRA. Your IRA goes with you wherever you go. But the 401k is always a business retirement plan. Follow me on that one?
Yeah.
So that's where the IRA is really important. So I would roll it from your Coke 401k. I love the S&P. I invest in the S&P 500. That's one of our main investments. It's called SPY. In one investment, you get 500 companies in one. It's great.
My husband is thinking about early retirement, and has been number, and he's going to be only 5 years, if he can do early retirement, because he wants to move on to and after,
Yeah, how close to 59 and a half is he?
He is 50, how long? I think it's 50,
Okay, so 59 and a half is kind of the magic number. The IRS says at 59 and a half, you can start pull money out of these without a 10% penalty.
yeah. They're building their, for some reason, it's only in
There are some strategies that you can pull a small amount out without, but you can't just pull as much as you want out without the 10% penalty. Oh, yeah, we can jump on a Zoom, anything. I'm over here probably every 3 months, working with clients in the Northwest Arkansas area. Yeah, early retirement, that's kind of everyone's dream. But 59 and a half is kind of the magic number.
I'm probably on the top scale of everybody here because we just retired
Hey, congrats.
last August after over 50 years of pastoring. And what you're describing is so right on, and what you're doing is so fantastic for pastors because we're, looking back in history, I could never convince my husband to talk to the board about a retirement plan. So we didn't have any retirement plan, group plan from the church. The Lord blessed us with Dave Ramsey's stuff.
Yeah.
We probably could have written Dave Ramsey's book for
Oh, I'm sure. It's so good.
Because we planted a church and we did the envelope method and we've lived that way all of our lives and the Lord's blessed us for that. I have no complaints at all, but what we did, we found out about the Rough IRA
There you go.
about 11 years ago.
Come on, that's great.
He had a small 401k, wasn't even $20,000 in it. We rolled it over to a Roth.
So paid the taxes, rolled it to a
Yes,
Roth. Good.
yes. And then I took some real estate investment classes. I did some real estate investing
Come on.
through the Roth.
Beautiful.
That was kind of a new thing. It was new to us.
Yeah, it's very popular now.
And the Lord bless us. We're not wealthy, but we have enough to live on in retirement. So I'm thankful for that. So I would recommend
Yeah.
the Roth.
And if I remember, you guys have Social Security too?
We do have some.
So a little bit upstream, yeah. So for my generation, Social Security, we're not even planning on it being significant. Like if it's there, great, it's kind of a bonus. In 2035, the Social Security plan actually has more people pulling out that are putting in. So they're gonna have to cut benefits. So we're anticipating a whole generation that Social Security is like, why bother? So what it means, we are on our own. We've got to do something. Social Security was meant for a life expectancy of 67 when it started. It was never meant for people to live 30 years on this thing. So that's why the change is coming. So yeah, claim it. If you haven't claimed your Social Security, make sure you get started on that. So great questions. What else? We got about 5 minutes before we get to go eat.
So what do you do as far as church and some of the situations you just talked about? I know others that are in that situation. And I think it's a mentality that so many pastors have. We sacrifice for the ministry.
Yes.
When there's funds available, well, we're going to use it for
Yes.
that project that we've been believing
Yes.
for. So what do you do when you're like way behind the 8 ball?
Way behind the 8 ball. There are some situations. I'll give you an example. Last time I was here, we had 60 pastors fill out a Connect card or whatever you want to call it. I'm like, oh, great. We're going to work with all these new pastors. We called every single one of them right away. Hey, I'm Jay. You filled out a Connect card. How can we help? Guess the response I had? Two people called me back or reached out. And I emailed them. I texted them. I called. Hey, you signed a Connect card? You said you wanted me to reach out. Left a voicemail. 3 weeks later, the same thing. Left a voicemail, text, email. Two people. What it tells me is there's a lot of people in that situation where they feel hopeless. It's like, why even bother? I'm just going to have to work till I die. The only other option is, hope you have a lot of kids. Hope they love you because they're going to have to take care of you. So that is a retirement plan is, hope my kids do well financially. And that's what happens. I did have to have some tough conversations of like, oh, you want to retire today and we have $5. That's not going to work, So you have to just keep working, save where you can. And that's really kind of what brings us to today is how much earlier we can, if you could tell yourself 30 years ago what you know, what you just learned in the last hour, it's $1 million or more of your lifetime net worth. So that's what we're trying to do is just get pastors to think earlier, talk to younger pastors about it, break the cycle, paycheck to paycheck.
And we've had pastors that retire, and then they continue to get not necessarily a salary, but they get a monthly payment.
Yeah.
Sort of like, I guess, a church pension. But some in the passing of the mantle, where the guy that took over the church was not successful, then you're in the dark.
Those handoffs, I'm telling you, you need 5 years plus to try to get it right, to make sure, kind of like Pastor Steve said, get the lanes on the highway so that you can exit how you want to, not because you have to. And unfortunately, that's where most pastors are. They have to work because they have to, not because they want to. And I don't want that to be you guys. So, yeah.
So claiming your Social Security,
Mm-hmm.
what if you make too much?
Yeah. Are you past your full retirement age? Once you're past your full retirement age, Social Security doesn't care how much you make. It's if you claim Social Security early and it's before your full retirement age, that's when they get you. They tax you on your Social Security benefit.
So I'm sorry, I just turned 65.
Okay.
So is that full-time?
Your social, when you look on your Social Security portal, it'll tell you what your full retirement age.
Okay.
I'm terrible at guessing ages, and so I'm not going to try it on you. So if you look at what, it will tell you what your full retirement age is. When you get that date, after that date, you can make as much money as you want. Your Social Security won't be taxed. That's the beauty of if people wait to their full retirement age. Most of our calculations for most pastors, as soon as you're able to take your Social Security, no one knows how long they're going to live. A lot of our pastors, they take the Social Security and then they invest it.
Sure.
So they kind of dollar velocity. They put it, their investment, their Social Security benefit is making the money, making money. So that's one strategy. But your full retirement age is really important to know that date. So, well, guys, it's 12:15. Let me pray for us and we'll head to lunch. God, thanks for moments like this. Thanks for these pastors. God, it's not by accident that we just spent the last hour together. And I thank you, Father, for who you are and what you do, Father. Lord, give us wisdom to know what to do and the courage to do it. Father, help these pastors take the right steps, Father. Lord, these churches are in your hands. They are not our churches, God. We trust you that you want what's best. God, help us be great stewards of what you've blessed us with. In Jesus' name, everyone said, Amen. Amen.